All right. Hello. Let's doing a quick sound check here. Got some new artwork on screen, as you can see. All right. Sounds like my voice is coming through. So that's good. All right, let's share this link to our Discord. Nope, that's not. Okay. I think it got it. Okay. So how are you guys doing tonight? Citizencon is popping off. There's a lot of things going on there. It's all very exciting stuff. And I've got some really exciting stuff to talk about too. Things are looking good. There are some movements underway. If you are part of the Discord, you may have seen some of that. There is now a discount code at Monster Tech USA. If you use code ODDJOB at checkout, you can get 5% off. And in the coming months, I'll be unveiling some projects that I've been working on with Monster Tech that I am very excited to show off. So I cannot wait. Let me just type real quick because I can't type and talk at the same time. I'm sure Discord is upset with me every time I post something. I mean, I'm a Discord admin, right, of my own server, so I try to keep my community up to date on things, and it tells me every time, "Are you sure you want to send this message to all 35-ish people out there?" It's like, yes, I really do. That is the purpose of that Discord server. Okay, what was I saying before? Yes, so um, we have a discount code for Odd Job Entertainment. Uh, Projects coming out for with Monster Tech USA. Really excited to show those off in the future. But if you use code OddJob at checkout, you can get 5% off. And let me just actually, well, maybe I should do it while the video is playing because I probably can't do that kind of stuff on the fly super well. But you can also see, hey, for the stream. So I'm hoping that this makes things a little better for you guys. I looked back at the stream that I did for the Call of Duty beta, and that was not good quality. There are so many clips that I wanted to go back and salvage for videos, and it's just a muddy mess. So I've upped the bitrate, trying some new settings, trying some new things. Hopefully, this is going to work out a little better. But and then I have this nice little talking to the fans page. wish there was a way for me to just have like a master audio setup because it switches from scene to scene, and that part does get kind of frustrating. Let's see. Let's see if I unmute this one. Maybe that brings it back. So let's go back here. And let's see if I can hear myself again. Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Da, 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 da. Ah, okay. All right. That should have fixed it. It sounds like I can hear myself. I don't know. Discord, man. It's weird. Okay. let's get back to let's get back to the video. Sorry about that. Okay, hopefully I didn't say anything super important when audio was off. Guess I'll have to go back and find out. Um, these people are telling us what they love about the community. Okay, what she said. That's what I was talking about before. You guys weren't hearing me, so I'll just rehash that a little bit. When I first started playing Star Citizen, I had a really rough time getting into the game, learning how everything works. And as a new player, there is a ton of information that you have to sort through and figure out all on your own, unless you're doing the smart thing, which I did not do at the time. And that would be to use global chat to get help, ask simple questions, and watch a lot of videos, tutorials to kind of figure things out. I kind of just went in guns blazing, half blind, and I really struggled because there is just so much to go through. But I have seen that the community really is very welcoming if you give them a chance. I've tried to be a big part of that. You know, my videos, I try to keep them. I really shoot for a kind of wholesome presentation, which I think I've done pretty well so far. And I try to make things super simple so that if you have no idea what Star Citizen is, you can get in and start having fun right away, as long as you watch a couple videos. So, oh, well, the video is silent at the moment. It shouldn't be playing anything just yet, but if I hit play, you should be able to hear stuff. Yeah, the community can be very, very supportive, and I think that that is one of the main strengths of our community. Okay, I'm gonna listen through the live stream that I got going here and just make sure that no audio is still out on the main screen. Guys, I don't understand it. I don't change anything from session to session, and then I have all these issues with audio. Okay, let's mute that. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right, let's try this setting. No, it doesn't look like that is working either. Oh my goodness. Guys, streaming is so hard. Let's try this setting. No, that's not working. Capture audio from a selection of it. Execute. Let's try it this way. All right, let's wait for the live stream to catch up, and hopefully this fixes it. All right, let's wait for the live stream to catch up again. Almost. I think we're almost there. It doesn't seem like that method worked either. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, I got to figure this out. If you guys are Discord or no, not Discord, OBS professionals, let me know what I am doing wrong, because I would gladly take the help. Capture all audio except sessions from the selected executables. Huh. Yeah, we're gonna get this. We're gonna figure this out. see. Probably would help if I could, let's see. I guess I can mute mic aux 1. I don't know why. Yeah, it does. And I might have to, I'm not going to do it tonight, but I may have to update OBS at some point, or like reinstall it, or like rebuild everything. It's very frustrating. Let's see. I need something to play so that I can be troubleshooting, and I don't want to just keep playing the video. So let's go to the stream beats and see if we can get that to start playing some stuff. Sure. Let's do the hip hop channel. Might not be bad to just have the music playing anyways. Shooting, and I don't want to just keep playing the video. So let's go to the stream beats and see if we can get that to start playing some stuff. Okay, so just added another output. So I should start hearing a duplicate of the music in just a second. Sure. To the hip hop channel. Let me know if you guys start hearing music. Might not be bad to just have the music playing anyways. Silent. Yeah, it should take a few seconds to catch up. 8 troubleshooting OBS is the most frustrating thing I have to do. Shooting, and I don't want to just keep playing the video. So let's go to the stream beats and see if we can get that to start playing some stuff. Ah, you're hearing some music? Okay, I am hearing music as well, so I think... Alright, so I think we have a working solution. Oh my goodness. So I'll leave that playing, the music anyways. I'm just gonna make it a little quieter. Add a little ambiance. Okay, let's do this one more time. We are, goodness, we are 20 minutes into this. I'm just gonna hit some of the highlights. This lady here, she talked about how the community is very wholesome and very welcoming. That's true. I try to be a big part of that. These guys are kind of saying more of the same. There is a lot of passion in this community. There's a lot of good content creators. There's just so much going on. And it's really just a great place to just dive right in, meet some friends, and get into all kinds of shenanigans. We've been building up quite the community on the Odd Job Entertainment Discord, and if you're looking for an org to join, try Odd Job Entertainment. We're not great at streaming, as you can tell, but as far as having fun and getting along, we do that part very well, and we have lots of fun. On with the video.
We get from them, from their ideas.
I love the genuine enthusiasm.
The quick turnaround on
Very
feedback. I love that.
Yes.
And how they're always interested in what's coming up.
I especially appreciate the people who are able to keep track of dates.
They, call us out.
It really impacts our decision-making process for, what.
It's a two-edged sword. They call us out. They keep track of dates. Oh my gosh, is that a sweat stain that y'all are seeing on screen, or is it just a shadow? Nope. Okay, I'll just keep my armpits down. Getting called out, I'm sure, is very stressful as a developer. I imagine it's probably the best time and the worst time every time you put an update onto Spectrum, because it is instantly the center of attention and there's a lot of scrutiny that goes into it. So having a community that is so passionate to keep you on task like that, yeah, that's great. But having that community also be very volatile, I'm sure that is also pretty irritating at times.
What did we do right? What did we do wrong?
It is the most rewarding thing in the entire development process.
We're not making the game alone, we're making it with the community.
Still keep facing
That
us.
part is very true. We are
They
making
really
it
do make all this
as
possible.
a community.
I'm living the dream. We all are.
My favorite thing about the community, it'd be impossible for me to narrow it down to one. And if somebody said you had to, I'd probably just turn and walk away.
Okay. That was a nice video. I like that one. Very touching. Kind of acknowledging the passion that goes into our community that we have. Now, Planetary Pyro. I haven't seen anyone else cover this. That doesn't... Let me clarify. I'm sure other people have covered it. I just haven't watched other people's coverage of it. I'm very excited to see what updates they have for Pyro. We are learning in much the same way we stumble through Star Citizen. Yes. Yep. The developers are learning right along with us. Video audio is working. Yeah, we got it. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to do private streams sometime to work out these settings so that they're not such a hassle every time. So I'll probably have to reach out to the Discord members to help out with that at some point. All right, let's full screen this. We pay for all the pixels, let's use them.
My name's Max. I'm
Hi,
here
Max.
on behalf of the Planet Content team today. I'm a senior environment artist and I want to show you some of the cool stuff that we worked on in the last 2 years.
Yes, show me Pyro.
So I have Pyro 1 open already. It's live in engine. This is the current version of Pyro, so we're still gonna do a polish pass on it, so not everything is done, but we still wanted to show.
So immediately I notice it looks like the new cloud tech is already implemented on this, which makes sense. I mean, if you're going to have this new technology built, you may as well use it on everything going forward. But it's nice to see that, when we get Pyro, it's not going to have to go through multiple art passes like the legacy planets have had to go through, so to speak. I mean, Lorville just recently got clouds added, and it makes the atmosphere so much more fun to fly through. Much more beautiful experience. It's nice to know that everything going forward is going to be held to that same standard right from the get-go, and we're not going to have to go through months where it's looking kind of bland and then it gets taken offline. And oh yeah, I've seen some stuff on the flight speed, so I don't think you're exactly spoiling it for me because I already saw some of Avenger 1's coverage of it, but yes. I think it actually goes right along with one of the videos I did recently, or not too far back, talking about speed limits in space, where it makes it so that you can go faster when you're traveling and not as fast when you're in combat. But yeah, I'm excited for that stuff. Pyro 1 looking really good so far.
What we have so far. So the idea behind Pyro 1 is that it gets hit by solar flares like repeatedly.
Okay.
We got some concept
like
art
minimal
from
atmosphere.
the concept art team, and the way that they visualized these solar flare hits was like glowing marks and streaks all over the planet. Unfortunately, the tech for the glowing part of it is still being worked on. So we had to make do with.
I wasn't
what
seeing
we
too much glowing.
could use. So it's not glowing, but you can still see a lot of the blue coming in. Yeah.
But that sounds like a really cool idea. Like, do you guys remember Mustafar from Revenge of the Sith? You know, it's this molten lava planet where, you know, Obi-Wan and Darth Vader had their final fight before, you know, the gap between the two trilogies. This would be like a blue version of that. It sounds like. So blue glowing veins through the planet. That sounds really cool.
As you can see, Pyro 1 already has some volumetric clouds. Not all of the Pyro planets have their volumetric clouds yet. So let's jump to
those are some dense clouds too. Those look pretty cool.
I just tweaked like the sun position a little bit to make it look a bit nicer. And then you can see why it's blue. We added like tons of these crystals to Pyro 1.
Those look pretty sweet.
I hope that they have some value. Wala, but I think we were a bit too...
add some new consumables
we played it a bit
or
too safe on
minables.
Wala. I think we only put like crystals as ground cover assets. But for Pyro 1, we really wanted to push the shapes. So you can find like these really large crystals here.
Yeah,
Heisenberg would be really happy here.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
then
like
another
that Breaking
interesting
Bad
thing
reference.
to highlight here, plants over there. So what's
Always happy to see
interesting
new
about
plants.
those is we made them like 3 or 4 years ago. They were supposed to be part of like a mission in on a space station. The mission was scrapped, unfortunately, and ever since then this asset set has just been sitting in our like vault. It's a really cool plant set, and I'm happy that we finally found a spot to use them.
You know, there is so much artwork that gets made that we never see the light of day of because it just stays a concept piece and gets lost to time that way. But I'm glad they got to use this part. But if you ever go back and like look at Halo concept art or concept art from any video game, really, there is so many concepts that get worked on so much and then they just disappear. They couldn't get it to fit. It was going to be too long, you know, cutting floor type stuff. But there's like worlds of games worth of content that is just all cut.
So this is another spot I want to highlight. It's also important for us that we do add something memorable to each planet. In the case of Pyro 1, it's this spiky rock set that looks really intimidating. We tried to push the scale of the assets for the Pyro system. We felt like by now we got like the basic rocks and the scattering of the basic rocks to like a very good quality. So now we can explore more crazy shapes, I guess. And this is one of the sets that we made.
I like
it's not done yet. It still needs a polish pass, but I
like, let's see. You guys can see my mouse here. I like this feature over here. It looks like the wind is just blowing super hard across the map, and it's just been kind of knocking this over. It looks a lot like the rock formations that you would see in Utah. We have some very bright red, irony colored rocks that are just shaped by wind over millions of years. Not quite as pointy, but it's the very similar kind of structure. So I'm hoping that that's what's causing
show you
them.
guys what it feels like when you're in game walking.
I don't know how you get
here.
this out of wind.
Now I want to show you
it's
my
cool
personal favorite biome of Pyro 1. It's this biome here, which has these really cool looking rock formations. They are
I think they're called hoodoos
like if
in
I
Utah.
jump in game here, you get a good feeling for the scale of them. Yeah, it's possible to land your spaceship on them. It's probably
you
really
can land
fun
your
to,
spaceship on it, but good luck
race
getting back
through
up to your
here.
spaceship if you fall
We
off.
can imagine that this is going to be like a nice combat space as well, because they do provide nice cover. Let's just jump to a couple different areas on Pyro 1 before we move to Pyro 2.
Ooh, look at that blue sun. My favorite color is blue, so anytime I see like all these kinds of blue gradients, it makes me excited, gets me happy.
So now we're on Pyro 2. In comparison to Pyro 1, you can immediately see the planet is like way more colorful. There's more variation in the use and values of the colors.
Looks very
we have,
reminiscent
like, browns
of
and like bone white spots, some red, and it's all contrasted by like a blue clear ocean.
Extent.
So Pyro 2 doesn't have volumetric clouds yet, but they will be there at release. So now I jump to one of the...
Dude, that's Utah. You change the color of these black rocks to be more like this red-orange. That's Utah. In fact, Zion's National Park. I'm gonna take this down here just in case. I mean, it's a pretty safe search, but you never know. I don't want to get in trouble. Or let's see. Here's a cool one. So this is what I'm talking about. This red, earthy color and these kinds of rock formations. These are all carved by wind. It just keeps chipping away over millions and millions of years. Zion's National Park, if you haven't had the opportunity to go, is absolutely beautiful, and I highly recommend it. This is... Let's see, open image, a new tab. This is another good view of what I'm talking about, just these windswept rocks. A super beautiful place, and you get this lovely contrast between the orange earth and the bright blue sky. Awesome place to go. Alright, let's get back to it.
The biomes of Pyro 2, what I want to highlight here is...
You can see there's a lot of wind too, so I think that's the storytelling they're trying to
the side
do.
Of mountains. That was something that was always quite challenging for us to do, to have some natural transition from the terrain to the geometry, and then also have like the rocks form in a natural...
And it looks really good because with those kinds of structures, you do get a very sandy bottom that just kind of leads up into the rocks. You know, as the wind blows by, it chips off little bits of sand and it just kind of falls down. But it creates these mounds around the main rock structures. So it's very...
now we can
it's very
make
convincing
nicer
to
rock
me.
Formations. It's not quite there yet. There are still improvements planned for it. But I think in comparison to what we had before, this is a big step forward. Also, what you might see is the drawing distance of assets has been greatly improved.
Oh yeah.
So everything you see here
you can see for
the
miles.
distance is actual geometry. So if we were to fly all the way over there, you will see that this is like cliff formations. And I think it looks really cool, like the silhouette of the terrain. Yeah, let's fly through the canyons. Yeah, I would do this in a space.
See that mountain over there? You can go there.
Flying,
you can go to that
I'm just
mountain.
gonna use,
it's the
camera.
promise we're always told in video games, but in Star Citizen it's actually true.
A really cool biome on Pyro 2. It's simple, but I think sometimes less is more. In this case, what sets this biome apart from
more of like
the
a
rest
Death
of the
Valley
planet is that
vibe.
we added these calcified trees, and they spawn in very dense clusters. So you almost get like little forests of them. So it's supposed to look very dry and kind of dead, but still in a pretty way. Okay, if we look at it from this angle, what I really like about this biome is the contrast that you have here on the terrain. It's pale, it's dry, but then in the background you have like the nice clear blue ocean. So this is one of the red areas on Pyro 2.
So it does seem kind of like an abrupt change to the sudden moisture you have there. I feel like there should be a little bit of like a gradient biome between the two. It looks really cool, but if they are going for ultimate realism, that's just something to think about, I guess.
It's kind of like a sandy desert, but we try to add like a lot of different geology assets, different mixes of bushes and grasses. So it's not like a dead
this
desert,
is very
but it feels kind of
Utah
lively
to me.
And you find like lots of foliage here. We have like these cliffs in the background.
Which is not a bad thing. I mean, a lot of Utah
dark.
really does just look like an alien
it's
planet.
Another nice contrast of this planet, where you have like the saturated red terrain and the dark bedrock. So jumping to this point here, what I want to highlight is the improvements that we made to our ground textures. So previously, like 2-3 years ago, we had to rely a lot on ground cover assets to add geometry and detail that the ground textures alone couldn't give us. But ever since we got terrain displacement, we get like really nice shapes just from the textures alone. And then if you combine it with ground cover assets, the result is really successful.
Yeah, we do have a lot of good paleontology sites.
That you see
absolutely right, Schlag. Sorry, I just want to go back. So when you're walking around in Science Park, this would be sandstone, right? It's not this gray color that they show here, but I mean, obviously they can be whatever color they want. But when you're walking on the sandstone, it's more of a orangish color that we've seen before, and you do get these kinds of ribs on the surface, and great way to twist your ankle. So ask me how I know. I had to carry my brother out of the canyon after he twisted his own ankle. Carried him on my back like a backpack. That not a good experience, but yeah, good sturdy shoes that don't slip around on your feet are necessary.
And the amount
obviously we're playing a video game, so it doesn't really matter that much, but just fun to talk about.
So now we're on Pyro 3. You saw some of it during last year's keynote demo, but I want to use the opportunity to give you like an in-depth look at some of the biomes. So last year you saw that like yellow is kind of the accent color of Pyro 3. So from this distance you can see through the volumetric clouds like a lot of the yellow coming through. We talked about what's making it look yellow, which is the moss, and I want to like jump down to the planet surface
is
and show
the
you
most Earth-like
detail
planet
that
we've seen so
will
far, as far as atmosphere,
when,
cloud cover,
to the moss.
and then the
So
color
we're
of the
down
ground
at
beneath.
the surface now. I'm just going to jump in game. A lot of time and effort was spent on making the moss look just right. So like the right level of fluffiness and density. So it looks really nice when it like covers these rocks. And then we also have like lots of smaller moss on the ground. We combine it with like
this
yellow
feels
grass,
like
and it makes for like a really interesting
Death Stranding,
biome.
but yellow.
So it was really important for us to make this biome look really dense. So we pushed the amount of assets that we're using.
Death Stranding has lots
So
of
it's
dense
basically
vegetation,
completely covered
ground
in
cover
foliage.
like this.
Compared
And
to Hurston, for example,
it's juxtaposed with these
Hurston and
dark
Microtech,
rocks.
which are probably our densest planets when it comes to foliage. This is way denser. The good thing is that we don't have any trees here, so all the budget we can use on ground cover, on grass. Now we jump to a Pyro coast biome. The improvements we got to the coast biomes is that we can now use a OPR override for every single biome. Previously, we could only use one global override per planet, which, as you can imagine, is not enough when you have something like Stanton 4, where you have snowy regions and the spruce tree regions, and one object preset just can't cover every coast. We added these coral, like coral geology set.
So again, with the Death Stranding reference, this looks like the chiral crystals somewhat.
To have some of the yellow also along the coast.
But it's cool. I like it.
So you see here, we always have like a little bit of yellow coming through, and eventually it transitions into the nice mossy areas. previously, when we made coast object presets, we played it a bit safe and only used 1 or 2 asset sets. But due to the fact that we can now push the density along the coast as well, you can find different kinds of coral, seaweed,
there's like these
different pebbles.
These
and
might be like
rocks
dead coral.
and other stuff. Now I jump to one of the volcanic regions on Pyro.
More variety is always good.
You might not expect to find vegetation here, but we did add a little bit of vegetation to this region to make it a bit more interesting. What I want to highlight here is the quality bar that we set for ourselves when it comes to improving the look of our vegetation. So this is one of my favorite new vegetation sets that we created. You can see the amount of detail on display. Here we have like nice little flowers and these like knots or whatever, like pots. And it's just like a really
I think
cool
this
asset
panning
set.
shot that he's
So when
giving
flying over the
kind of
volcanic
helps
regions, you will
capture
find
the
pockets
scale
of
that
these,
Star Citizen has.
scattered
You can
all
go
around
from
just to make the area like
looking at a
little bit more
planet
lively. Before we
all the
move
way
on,
up
let's
to
jump
looking
around
at
to a couple
leaves
more places.
and petals. Shadow of Mordor, man, that shot looks so cool. Man, I love seeing these new environments. This is awesome. Those mountains look great. Natural looking snow transition down to the lower elevation.
Now we're on Pyro 4, which is my personal favorite of the Pyro system. Yeah, just full disclosure, you can probably tell that the clouds here are not done yet. They do look a bit busted, but yeah, they will look amazing once the planet comes out. So let's focus on the terrain shapes. We created some of these terrain shapes special for Pyro 4.
Oh, it's the clouds that was making
by,
it
like,
look stripy.
Scottish Highlands.
Okay.
So there's not a lot of like verticality, not a lot of trees. So everything is kind of coming from the terrain and from the smaller assets that we scatter on the terrain geometry. So jumping in game, and then you can see the amount of ground cover assets on display, the variation in color, but it's all grounded by like the color of the soil. And it just looks like we have multiple new vegetation sets on display here.
And
So
this
first of all, we
highland
have this,
area that you're going to see is
bush set here,
another ankle
which is
twist
called,
mechanic.
I think it's called
This
a
is
fire
probably the most
stalk,
beautiful looking grass
which,
I've ever
it's kind
seen.
of like a modified version of the real world thing.
I mean,
they add
just
like a little
the
bit of
subtle
color to
variations
the
in
area,
color that he was talking
and
about.
make things
That is
pop.
great
Then
looking grass.
We have these ones here. I forgot the name of the asset set. Yeah, they also look quite saturated and interesting. We also try to improve the quality of our tree sets. If you compare like the trees that we have on Hurston to these ones, the geometry count is way higher, the texture resolution is a bit higher, and they just look more polished and nicer, which means that eventually we have to go back to Hurston, to Microtech, and give the trees there like a little makeover. So what was
the
really
concern I have in the back of my mind as he's talking about, you know, everything's bigger, better, more poly counts and all that is performance. As long as performance stays good, I'll be happy.
Them, but the transition still feels very natural. So if we go down here, you have like the red grass and it kind of feathers out. Okay. Yeah, it feels very organic and natural. Let's jump to the most experimental biome that we've made so far.
Yes.
So for this biome here, the concept art team gave us some really interesting concept art, because this is easily some
Arches National Park. Telling you, these guys are taking inspiration from Utah, which I am all for. Arches National Park, one of the coolest places you can go, and it's just filled with all these kinds of arches. I mean, rock structures like this really do exist, and they are very impressive to see in person.
Some of the biggest rock formations that we have in the game.
These look
so
really
far.
cool.
Actually, let me try to fly a ship so you can see the
do a loop-de-loop.
scale of them. So they're massive in
Nice.
scale. And what was the hardest part about getting these to look right is that they're supposed to look really good from a distance.
Is it Tarada?
Because
Is that how you say his name? That does the hard flying series?
Yeah, to be visible almost
I
from
can't
space.
wait to see what a YouTuber like that with his skill can do threading the needle through these kinds of rock formations.
Up close to them.
That is going to be
in-game,
incredible.
so
I can't wait to see what that guy comes up with.
So they are massive in scale. You can probably land your spaceship on them.
So cool.
Walk on them, and they make you feel like really small. But I think it's a really good visual that you have these like dark gray rocks against the crimson.
They look imposing. This color palette is great.
So here's a little happy accident where we have the volumetric clouds covering the terrain. And because the height map, the difference in height is so large, we actually get like shapes of the terrain poking out of the volumetric clouds. Yeah, you can probably spot
this
some
has
of
like
the
an
tiling
evil
issues that
appearance
here,
that we haven't had in
which is
Biome
something
so
that we
far.
still
That
need
is
to look
really
at.
cool to see.
But like I said before, this is still work in progress, so it's gonna change a bit. Because I mentioned biome diversity along the coasts before, I just wanted to highlight what one of the coast biomes on Pyro 4 looks like. So this one is kind of this wet sand. We scattered
And it
some
does
of
look
the
pretty good for wet sand.
seaweed, some of these lava plates, and some of these pebbles. And then we also get like nice seaweed moving with the waves of the ocean. One interesting thing on Pyro 4 is that we have a massive crater region. On other planets we have individual craters which are a whole height map, or like 3-4 smaller craters on one height map. But this is actually multiple height maps forming one large crater. And you can see it.
And that's like
all
your
the way out
Doomsday
in space.
crater.
Like this
That's the
whole
one
region
that
is
wipes
one
out the
big
dinosaurs
crater,
and
so
kills
it's a mix of,
everything.
like the global displacement texture, and then the height maps of the ecosystems spawning on top, plus the volumetric clouds make it look really epic here. Now we've flown down to the surface of the crater. We wanted this to feel very spooky and grim and kind of dark. So we have these
and it does
dark fantasy forest looking trees, which look kind of creepy.
There's so much visual storytelling potential here.
Back from the previous biome. If we go down to the surface of the crater, you can see that we added this
People are going to be having fun making all kinds of videos, screenshots,
shapes, some moist looking ground cover assets, and this whole area is supposed to make you feel it.
What do you think it sounds like when you step on this? Is it wet but it's a solid rock, so it's more of like a wet scraping sound, or is it a sploochy sound, like, you know? What do you think? Tell me in the comments what does it sound like when you're walking over this ground cover?
Uneasy. It's supposed to be hostile, and it's not safe without your suit on. So far we looked at 4 of the Pyro planets, so let's switch it up and look at one of the moons.
Okay.
This one is Pyro 5C. Similar to Pyro 4, you can see that it has a landmark that you can see from space. In this case, it's not a crater, but it's like a long streak of slick obsidian. So let's fly down to the surface of the streak and have a look what it looks like from up close. Again, we start with like the global height map, where there's like
looks like someone just took a knife and
then it goes down
cut through
to form
this
the crack, and then we scatter the ecosystem height maps on top to get the look that we want. So if we go down here, you can see we start with like flatland shapes, some smaller craters, and then it transitions into like these quite spiky looking mountain formations. And then down here they feather into like these longer ridges of bedrock before it becomes smooth down here. And if we jump to this point, which is a really cool spot because like the sun just hits the obsidian in the right way and everything looks like nice
cool.
and shiny. You can see here that the ground looks quite different from other planets. So instead of soil, it almost looks artificial in a way. Asset-wise, we're using one of our obsidian sets that you can also find on Stanton 4. This one got a bit of an update, a bit of polish, so we improved the shapes, different textures just to make it look extra cool, like the way the sunlight hits these surfaces.
Okay, I want a Gallant rifle with an obsidian camo. You guys remember the obsidian camo from Modern Warfare 2019? Imagine that being brought to the Star Citizen guns. It would look so cool. So I really hope a dev sees this and thinks to add that in.
To make this area a bit more interesting, we decided to add some of these white, light gray shrubs, just so the area doesn't feel too samey. And it's always nice to have like the occasional pocket of vegetation. To set the obsidian biome apart from the rest of the planet, we went with the opposite route for these biomes here. So,
okay, hoodoos. Let's look them up. Hoodoos, Utah. Another formation that just pops up in southern Utah are let's see. I wanna get a good one that looks at like a field of them. And just to be clear, am I saying that they are just ripping all their assets from Utah and that they're not being original? No. They're taking inspiration from things that already occur in nature. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. Just tall, skinny, slender rock formations that just crop up. So it's not a critique, it's praise. Okay, I just want to be very clear with that part. I've grown up in Utah my whole life, so I'm really excited to see things that look like home be in my space game.
So instead of being shiny and slick, they are more dry, covered in dry sand. The vegetation is dry. We added some of these spiky shapes to add some verticality to the scattering. But yeah, outside the obsidian crack, this is what you will find on the planet most of the time. So this go-to point I picked to show some of the subtle color that we added to Pyro 5C. So the obsidian crack is like kind of just dark.
Look at that skybox. That looks.
The desert I just showed is also light gray.
That's
so
perfect.
We felt this needed a bit of a color breakup. So we added some of these red hues to the occasional biome. It's very rocky. You also find the
really
red
nice
sand
with
on the rocks
red
from
rock.
the biome accumulation, and it looks really nice how the red creeps up into the crevices of the height maps in the background. We're going to end our showcase today on Pyro 6. Pyro 6 has a very interesting color palette. Like, I really like the yellows and the pale beige tones of the terrain. And then you have another blue ocean. As you can see, the terrain is kind of ridden by craters. And we get these really cool shapes where the ocean fills in those craters. If we jump all the way down to the edge of one of those craters, so now we're at the edge of one of those craters. I'm jumping in game right now just to show you what it feels like walking
really
along
cool
here. you can see that we added some dramatic looking coral shapes, and then eventually you walk down here towards one of those.
This reminds me a lot of, I think it's called Mammoth something, like Mammoth Springs in Yellowstone, but it's pools. It's like stacked pools made from white calcified rock, like this. And you get some cool crystal formation there.
Craters that's filled with water. We have a couple of floating meshes here on the left. This is still work in progress.
Of course, the thing they don't tell you before you get to Yellowstone is that the whole place does stink to high heaven. It smells like a fart.
The spawning here.
Super cool environment, lots of cool things to see, but it does
the color of the water and how it looks.
And the water is also like thousands of degrees, so you can't, you don't want to get too close to it.
Here, I want to introduce you to our human scale ref mesh. His name is Rüdiger. And he's super helpful when we set up object presets, because you can immediately see how the scale of assets feel when you have him in situation. Like, he adds context to the scene. He spawns every time that object preset spawns, and yeah, he helps us find the right values when it comes to the scale of our assets. In general,
you know what? Put a few of those just randomly through the game and let people find them as like an Easter egg.
Together with the assets that we put on top. So the transition is really nice from this ground texture to this one. And then we have like the same rock transition is really...
Okay, sorry, gotta walk you back, dude. Look at the... so you get a subtle hint of like blue-gray, and then this yellow color, and then it rolls into this more neutral gray palette.
Nice from this ground texture to this one. And then we have like the same rock set on both of them. And it makes for like a nice amount of detail on the ground. Then occasionally we spawn some of these spider looking ground cover meshes. So this spot here is really nice because you get like the particles, the monochromatic terrain, the assets, and it's all against the backdrop of the skybox of the pyro system, really cool, which is red. Then we get like some really cool looking...
This place just looks
sunbeams coming
like
through
oppressively dead, which
the
is
volumetric clouds.
It's another tool to use in your storytelling.
Then if I turn the sun and we make this dark, and I jump in game, you can see how drastically the skybox impacts the lighting.
That is so cool.
When you're on the dark side of the planet, and the skybox is just, it looks really good. So this is the skybox for the entire pyro system. So you will see it on every single pyro planet. It's just that Pyro 6 has like a very thin atmosphere, so you see it well.
Look at this skybox. That is incredible.
Here.
Oh my gosh. I could just spend an hour looking at just the skybox. I can't wait to see this in person. Well, in person, right?
I'm happy to have had this opportunity to show you guys the work that we did in the last 2 years. I'm super excited to see you guys explore the Pyro system for the first time, to hear your feedback. There's still work that we have to do, but I hope that you are even more excited than before after seeing what I showed you today.
Heck yeah, man. Thanks, Max. Great tour. I loved it. Pyro is looking so cool. Man, what a visual treat. That is amazing work from the art team. Hats off to you. There is so much going on. You guys have clearly done your homework on like different kinds of geologic formations. and how they are made. This is stellar work. I can't wait to be plodding around these places with my own character. Man, I've got goosebumps. This is so good. What other game gives you this much? Absolutely beautiful work, guys. Just incredible stuff. That skybox is really something. Incredible work. You guys should be very proud of yourselves. Next one, right? Investigations, Journey to 4.0. How's the video looking, guys? Is the video looking nice?
Hi, my name's
It
Elliot
should be a
Mulvey.
little
I'm
better
the
than it was
principal
last
systems designer.
time.
I work with Luke Presley on the mission feature team. I'm here today to talk about one of the new mission types we're prototyping.
So this is an early look, a new mission type, and usually we don't give you a look this early. It's because we don't have the nice shiny visuals.
But people keep asking to see the design brief, so we thought, what the heck, we'll let you see.
So a mission is built out of objective types, and the mission type really is just the most critical or challenging objective in that mission.
Currently, we have a number of mission types in the game. Some of these are not built in that modular sense. Some of these are very much bespokely built to test out a feature at one time. The original PI Wanted is one of those. The current mission types that do exist is we have deliveries, which are essentially a form of collect and drop off. We have eliminate missions, which is just kill someone, and eliminate ship missions, which is go there and kill destroy a ship that has a person inside of it. And there's many more. The way we see missions is they're comprised of little bits of gameplay. So, for example, we have missions where you're sent to kill a singular person or pick up a box or kill a bunch of enemies. So the way how we build our missions is we combine these together. So we'll have missions where you have to pick up a box, but we'll have enemies there that you have to kill as they're kind of like an obstacle for you to get around.
That isn't to say that you can't build a mission out of a single objective. The assassination mission, for instance, has one objective: assassinate a target. But even the most...
Okay, so I think what they're hinting at, right? In the past, it's always been very single objective, right? Not a lot of overlap between them, not a lot of mission variety. aside from just having these different kinds of objectives that you have to do, but it's always like one at a time. It sounds like what they're leading into is, well, now we have this palette of tools that we can use. Let's mix and match them to make something really cool.
Like simplistic mission, like the delivery mission, is actually built out of two objectives. There's the collection of the item and the delivery of the item. And if we made the collection of that item like even more difficult, we'd refer to it as a collect mission rather than a deliver mission.
So our objective types, for the time being, have been pretty simple. You know, kill this person, go here, do this.
And this is where they're going to say
now,
what I was saying.
We're now looking at doing one of the most complex type of objective and gameplay things we've tackled in MFT. With that said, we're working on a new mission type, and that's investigation.
Put on your Batman cowl.
Currently in the game,
getting ready to be a detective.
The player can feel like a bounty hunter, a mercenary, a person who does deliveries, you know, a cargo hauler. We want to make them feel like a detective as a new route. You know, we're expanding constantly. We're building mining, salvage, and detective is going to be our focus in MFT.
The experience we want to give players with the investigation mission is that they feel like a detective, that they feel like they're collecting evidence that will ultimately answer the question that has been posed.
Kind of like what the PI wanted, which, I mean, they referenced.
Search through the evidence and find the red herrings and like choose the right answer.
So what we want is we want to build a...
Maybe they're going to say this, but I just want to speculate that having these kinds of detective mechanics in place means that you can add a lot more variety to the kinds of missions that we already have as well. Like, you're a bounty hunter, you're tracking down an NPC, right? Their last known location, we always have that if they were in a part of monitored space. But this might be, you find like a quantum signature that takes you to a remote location that's not in monitored space. And now you have to track down that individual. So this could open the door for much more feature-rich bounty hunting missions where now it's going to take you like 2 hours, but there's a higher payout, you know, something like that. That prospect, really exciting to me.
A mission that requires you to have to think, requires you to have to look around, search your environment in detail, look at each individual clue and make sure you fully understand it before you make your decision as the detective.
And there'll also be red herrings thrown in there, so evidence will really have to be like poured over to be able to determine whether it's actually credible or not. We also wanted to create narratives around our locations that we haven't done before, like really dig into like why has this derelict become a derelict? Or why have all the ship's crew come to be dead? Or why has this cargo gone missing? At the core of this mission...
Okay. Another thing that I'm thinking of, for this to work well, where you have to go through and analyze the evidence, so to speak, or as they've said, really, that requires it to be a lot more story-based. So there's going to be a lot more story development with these kinds of missions, and that alone is very exciting. Otherwise, you know, how are you going to make it so that you have these evidence pieces that you have to look at unless they have a contiguous story that keeps them all connected?
We're really asking the player to use their brain rather than their gun or their ship.
So for this mission type, I don't want to breadcrumb players along. I want you to feel like a detective. I will give you a story, I will give you little bits of clues, and you have to make up this full sort of painting and decide exactly what has happened here. And then the rest of the decision is on yours. I might not tell you if it's wrong or right, you might find out. The idea is that you feel like a detective and you're so sure of your decision that you're going with that. So the next stage in this whole process is building a pitch. You know, we have to come up with our ideas, how we want it to work, and then we have to present it to CR, Tony, and Todd, and make sure they're all happy with it and all of our visions are aligned. So when we're building the pitch, we start off by going, over the ideal experience we want for the player. We start off with the most advanced things, all the gameplay mechanics we could dream of to bring this sort of role to life as a detective. And then we have to start looking at stripping it back to see when we can release it, what's the minimum viable product for this experience.
And in the case of the investigation mission, we came up with two. So the first pitch is extremely simple, and it revolves around being able to find a definite answer, like something that is undisputable. For instance, we came up with a mission where there is a repairman that's gone missing, and you can go to his office, and you can find some correspondence that will lead you to another place, which will have his like work itinerary on there, and they're all crossed off until one. And if you're smart, you'll go to that location, and should you go to that location and do a little searching, you'll find his body there, and he's been like electrocuted, fixing the final thing on his list. And there's your definitive ending. Whereas the second pitch, it's more about allowing the player to choose when they're done, like when they think they have solved the mystery. And the way we do this is we scatter evidence around the location and clues that lead you to that evidence. And obviously there can be red herrings in there. You can get your answer up to a credible state, which might still be the wrong answer but you can complete the mission then. Whereas if you'd have carried on digging a little more, maybe found a few more clues and followed them, you would perhaps find an indisputable piece of evidence, like, I did it kind of thing, that would get you the bonus for the mission.
Okay, because you're going to have bonuses. We know how players think. A lot of us will go for the very bare minimum to get those credits. So if you make the incentive good enough, you can really get us to do more work to actually delve deeper into the storyline you're creating. So you're going to have those bonuses there. But also think like, and it'll probably be a while before they can implement this kind of mission. But imagine there's a serial killer on the loose, right? Classic detective drama. The serial killer leaves clues because it's showmanship. They want to take credit, and you have to interpret these clues on a timeline in order to prevent the next killing. That would be a really cool mission to see. I hope that in the future we're able to do something like that. CIG, if you're watching, you can have that one for free.
And both pitches had their strengths and weaknesses. The simple pitch, we could see how easy it was to scale, and it involved less complex narrative work. But we ultimately decided to go for the second because we liked the idea of giving the player the agency to decide when they were done.
Okay, I thought they were saying that they have those two options when making.
So we're in
missions,
the prototype
but it sounds like they're
investigation mission,
sticking with the more complicated one for all of them.
More important than ever because it's such a complex mission, and we need to ensure that it's scalable and that other designers can make their own mysteries with it.
With the pitches, we can now prototype and sort of get that gameplay feel and see which one we want to explore more for the player's experience. Some of the hardest points of this are going to be the scalability of it. An investigation at its core is a story, so the story should always be at the forefront and the focus.
So the first stage of prototyping was to prove that we could make it like a mystery happen in the most restricted location we have, which was a derelict. So this kind of interplay between the crew of it. From there, we're going to expand so that it takes into account more locations and uses all of the evidence retrieval interactions that we currently have. For instance, you can kill a guy and get information off him. You can find a corpse, get information off it. You can loot a box, get information off it. And then we'll be prototyping the newer ways of getting information off of things. We're looking into using the med gun to find the name and cause of death of people, and we're looking into being able to find the mobile asset in an inventory and download data from it.
One of the hardest things that we have to figure out is the story. The investigation will live and die by its story. So we work very closely with the writers to try and figure out what kind of story we want to tell, what kind of clues we want to give.
So, in the beginning, I'm sure most of the clues that we're going to get are going to be readables, like what we see on screen here. For this to be really good and keep players engaged, I'm hoping that they're going to do things like audio recordings and small video segments. You know, like you're reviewing the security logs of a camera, and you can see what happened leading up to the crime that you're investigating. Reading is going to get pretty dull pretty quick, I think. But if you can really build and lean on the story elements and just add some variety, that could make this very cool.
And then after that point, we look at sort of what obstacles we want to put in your way. You know, keypad locked doors, enemies, like traversal puzzles, things like that.
The main challenge for creating this mission is ensuring that the player has enough guidance to complete it without putting mission markers on everything. Like, it is supposed to be about them searching, figuring clues out for themselves, and finding the answer themselves.
We want you to still feel like that detective, but ensure that we're giving you enough information in the ways that we can.
And we're working with the UI designer.
But not hold your hand at the same
which
time.
Which really help with this.
So this has been our video design brief on our investigation missions. We're really excited to bring these to you. We wanted to give you an early look to let you know what we're thinking and see what you're thinking about these as well.
And we're really excited about it because it will allow us to inject a lot more story into the persistent universe.
So with everything we do, iteration is a key part of how we build things. So by the time you see this, and maybe by the time it comes out, it might have changed drastically. We don't know yet. We're still working on it and figuring out the fine details. But player experience and player agency is at the focus of what we're trying to achieve.
We're really excited and hope you are too.
And I'm sure we'll be talking
You got me,
about
man.
this again.
I'm excited. I want to see this. Sounds really cool. If it pans out anywhere close to what you guys are saying, that has a lot of potential. The new underground.
Hello, I'm Ian Leyland. I'm the
Sounds
art
like it's
director
gonna be
for
like
Star
bunkers
Citizen,
and stuff.
and today we're going to talk about underground facilities.
Yes.
Now, this was a presentation that we gave Chris internally a little while back, and what we're going to cover is how we're going to take one of the locations we have in the game right now, but actually really design it from the ground up to be the location archetype that we really wanted. Okay, let's get started.
So, obviously in our org, we do a lot of mercenary missions. So we spend a lot of time underground, and it's always the same layout for just about every base with very slight variations between them. So I'm very excited to see that they're talking about new undergrounds, because that means new bunkers, new modules, a lot more variety. I'm already excited. Let's get into it.
Let's talk about the original underground facilities. Now, the problem was
there we go.
We made these originally for the Citizencon presentation demo, and the time we had wasn't enough to kind of take the location where we wanted it to be. Now,
which I mean, at the time it was
current purpose. It's fairly small in scale. It gives
it demonstrates that you can have
opportunity for
an underground area,
combat,
and it
we
can
always
be
knew we wanted it
fun to play
be
in.
able to scale.
But I think they always knew that they were going to have to go over this again at some
maybe
point.
60 minutes of gameplay time per location.
I don't know about 60 minutes.
So how do we go
We're pretty
about
good.
designing
we can do it a lot faster
location
than 60
archetype
minutes.
from the ground up? So what we do is we split the location into the core areas we want to visually develop. Now for underground facilities, the first thing we're looking at here is what we're calling Zone 1. So this is the presence on the landscape. So what we're looking at here is an example key art shot of what a medium-sized underground facility could look like. So dominant features that we're seeing here is a kind of a key spire. This is instantly where your player, you should be able to navigate towards. This could be like
this is massive compared to what we
an executive landing
have
pad on
now.
the top.
And this is medium.
It's very important to be able to get the landing pads or the landing hangars quite
What's
close
small?
to the facility, because
What's
we want that
large?
experience as the player lands. They're not far off from the location. They're actually quite close, and you should be able to see a little FPS area where the player lands. Also, what we're seeing here is some visual justification at what might actually be going on. So you're seeing, processing and tanks and supplies actually on the landscape there. Now, what I was saying before,
a reason for the building to be there,
kind of a much braver,
which we don't usually have
on the landscape.
right
so
now.
we designed the silhouette primarily, so you'd be able to recognize these as a location to aim for. Also, what we're seeing here is we thought it'd be cool to actually have surface entrances as well. So we're actually thinking about primary, secondary, and tertiary ways for the player to get into these locations, depending on the mission scenario. So
Because
like
right now
I
it's
said before,
just
we've
the
got,
elevator.
like executive pads at the top, got the main hangars in the middle, and surface entrances down there below. Now moving on
I
to
like
the
that.
inside,
Multiple
after the player's
entrances, very
landed,
good.
Through there.
Also, just from a game stability point, right? There has every major patch we have issues with elevators. So if you give us a way to get down there without having to take an elevator, like a set of stairs, that fixes a lot of those bugs because you can just work around them. And it makes it so it's not so frustrating to have the elevator bug again.
The hangars to be brought up into the main corporate reception. Now these are going to be quite interesting because we'll be able to rebrand these depending on the manufacturer or the location. That's where we'll get a lot of the variety.
Attack of the Clones.
But this is the corporate presence before.
They all kind of look like this guy. They're all bald. See?
That's where we'll get a lot of the variety. But this is the corporate presence before the player would go down into the bowels of the facility. And what we're seeing here is, just an example of what a bearing reception could feel like. Now moving into Zone 2, with it being an underground facility, the physical act of going underground, that's cool, right? So we wanted Zone 2 to be about the logistics of the player going up and down and how we can make that cool visually, but also interesting from a player experience.
Staircases.
So this is the transit, the elevator network. So we played around with
Looks
a few
really cool,
different
but please give me a
ideas into this,
staircase.
and one of the things that we thought could be quite interesting is the elevator itself could be a mini play space. So what we're looking at here is control room idea quite early, what sort of scale vehicles there could be. Now ultimately we didn't go with this idea. It was, didn't really fit the art style that we wanted, but it had some pretty interesting ideas. So what we landed on here is something that we felt quite comfortable with internally. Now it's worth noting we're designing these as an archetype first in a utilitarian art style. In the future, we'll expand out and do other art style variants.
Yeah, just like
so
they
what we're
have
seeing
with
here is
hangars.
the control room overlooking the main
Hangars all started off looking pretty
warehouse
much the
floor,
same.
and
Now
then
there's a
this
lot of
elevator
variety between the
is-
different
should be
planets.
big and clear enough for the player to understand, like that's where logistics will go up and down. And for the elevator itself, we wanted it to be its own play space. So on the top level, that's where containers will be shipped up and down. But maybe underneath it, there could be little nooks and crannies. If we wanted to stealth into the location, we'd be able to give opportunities for the player there. And down below, this is what the player would kind of see. So now they're really starting to get in.
Okay, and just going to add a comment.
Into
There, left my feedback.
bowels of the facility, so echoing of that control room down below, but also this is where we'll
This
present
does look
the
really
player
cool,
with
though.
an opportunity to choose the area they want to go. Maybe cargo's to the left, maybe processing to the right, or maybe technicals up above. Part of that process of how we design is we look at things
area
about
for just
from the
an
player's point of
elevator.
view. So what we're seeing here is pretty good indication about how the player would exfiltrate from the location. So a lot of the lines are leading towards the elevator because we want navigation to be as intuitive as possible. Moving on to zone 3, so this is the bowels of the facility. So these are going to be spaces that we've never really explored before. A lot of the locations in the game tend to be quite residential, but here we're going for something completely industrial. As a player, you want to feel like an ant almost to the location. The primary purpose
So these are going to be
is not for you to be walking around. So we dedicated spaces towards logistics, and we put kind of personnel walkways almost as a secondary element. So in this image, you're kind of seeing where, you know, big trucks could kind of go, but we've also
You could
got
probably
like
bring your
little
Ursa
nooks
and
crannies
just
for the
plow
player
right
to
through
kind
here.
of explore and
It
go
should be
into.
big enough for
now,
that.
as it being a location dedicated towards the moving of logistics, we wanted to explore and have fun with vehicles, right? So here we're seeing the mule kind of coming and going on one of these walkways. You know, maybe there's elevators. So on the right, what we're seeing is a ladder. So with all of these play spaces, as we were having fun and visually exploring, we always kept in mind of different ways for the player to traverse through the scene. Also, as part of that, we wanted to think about verticality, so not just a linear direction of traversal, but also ways in which we could go vertically. So maybe there's the concept of a cargo elevator within the corridor. So kind of similar to how you'd see on a character be a little control room looking at the flight deck. Here you could kind of see something very similar. Maybe this ties into gameplay puzzles about how you could bring cargo in and out. You know, maybe as a player you're trying to steal some
Jump
cargo
Town.
out. There's tons of potential for how we could do
Illicit
puzzles
cargo and
in
how
that
you're going
regard.
to get it back
so
to your
looking at
ship.
this image, we took loads of
Or
inspiration
high-value
from
cargo that's
modern-day
legal, but
aircraft
now you're
carriers
stealing it.
about how you see pads on the flight deck go to the underbelly.
Or even just as a job.
I thought this would
You know,
already
you're
give
just
tons of
working
opportunity
logistics.
for not only cool visuals, but also ways in which you can reveal extra traversal opportunities. So as that cargo deck goes down, you'd see other ways to kind of traverse through into the facility. Okay, so what we're looking at here is kind of an example corridor. Now, corridors in our game are quite important to us, but they don't necessarily have to be boring. Now, what we're seeing here is an establishment of a radial motif. Now, with this being subterranean, we wanted to always imply that there's a weight kind of pushing down. So this radial motif is the best load bearing. So as a design language, instantly was feeling quite right. So in this traversal corridor, what we're seeing is a few different things. Clearly, there's a clear route for logistics. That's cool. But also on top of that, you've got these side routes, which is where personnel would go, split hierarchy. So it would be pretty cool for FPS combat, you know, for opportunities there. And then leading in, underneath, you're kind of seeing a tertiary route. Now, part of this could be this maybe is stealth route, or maybe this is the upper area is blocked off, so the player has to go down below. So even within something as a concept of a corridor, we want to design many different avenues for the player to traverse. Okay, so what we're looking.
So all of this looks really, really cool. Okay, and I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing so far. But like Pyro, you know, back when we first heard the word Pyro, this is a very long ways off. I don't think we're going to see this in the next year or maybe even two, based on how quickly we get content in Star Citizen. I'm very excited for this to come, but I think we're going to be doing mercenary missions in the same kinds of bunkers we've been doing them for quite a while more.
Looking at here is the underbelly
And it could
of
be
that
totally
concept
different
we
by
just
that point too.
So up above, dedicated towards logistics, maybe containers going through, shipping containers going through. But underneath
Just
here, maybe
keep
this
in mind
is
this is a very
more
high
towards
level
the
discussion
processing
of
it.
a
Maybe
distant
hydraulic
feature.
cylinders for these elevators coming and going. Hierarchically, it's a different mood. So up above, it's cleaner, it's noisier, but down below, darker, more steamy. And again, that presents other opportunities for gameplay. Now, we can't have these corridors going on forever. Performance-wise, we'd never be able to draw it, and it wouldn't be the most entertaining for the player. So we came up with the idea of introducing these bulkheads. So these bulkheads are almost checkpoints. So it enables us to break that draw distance, but it also enables us to break the rhythm of traversal. So from going from a corridor into an ops
sneaking
room
in
or
a loading
something
screen
like
without
it's
giving
way
it a
in which
loading
to
screen.
kind of checkpoint the progress through the location.
Giving it the game a way
So
to
inside these
load the
bulkheads,
next area.
we could maybe array like ops rooms. Maybe
But I
these
mean,
are
that's what object
scanning
container streaming is
checkpoints,
for. I mean,
to
it's
kind
not
of
a bad
monitor,
thing, but
the movement of cargo to and from. You know, also inside here, you know, there could be tea rooms or break rooms or offices. So again, we're trying to break the rhythm of traversal, so the player's going from a large space to a small space, but also from one theme to another theme. And what that will hopefully do is create a really good rhythm of play space where the player's not getting bored of traversing through the space. So what we're seeing here is a side view to kind of explain how that process. So on the left, we've come in from the corridor. So on the top, we're seeing the primary route through, and we're seeing the bottom route coming in as well. So this is how, again, we're going to try and keep verticality as a traversal motif in mind. Now going from a large corridor set to what we're considering here medium or small. So these are the tertiary networks that will link into the primary traversal route. So these again will be continuing the radial motif that we've been seeing, and these would take the player and connect into the main spaces. Now from traversal networks to theme rooms. Now as the player's traversing through, we wanted to chapter that experience with key theme rooms. Now what we're seeing here is an example of an industrial space. Maybe it's processing. We didn't want to go too specific, just so that in the early development process, we wanted to explore motifs that could work. So here we're seeing an example, a processing room, but there's a few key things that's kind of cool. So right from the bottom level, there's a network of levels which will be dedicated towards processing, you know, pipes, machinery, all of that sort of good stuff. And then as we get higher up, we're seeing that very dominant kind of technical control wing suspended over the play space. As an idea, this creates a plethora of interesting opportunities as a play space to fight the way through or solve puzzles. One of the things early on we wanted is cause and effect. We wanted the player to be interacting, solving puzzles, but seeing that reflect into the space. Another theme room idea we came up with was processing. So bringing in raw materials, processing them through.
I also
ready for
think
manufacturing.
it probably goes
So we
without
had a bit of
saying, and
fun
it's
with,
probably implied.
Ways in
but
which we
just
could kind
to
of
clear it up,
create these quite interesting
you're probably
set
not going
so
to
it's
see
not all just
of these
industry,
zones in
the
every
these
underground facility.
There's also going to be technical
But they'll be like mixed and matched, and some of them, you know, larger ones might have all of them. Smaller areas might only have just one of these underground
zones. So this is where they
zones.
control the networking of everything.
But these,
and also on
it's
here,
probably
you've
best
got
to
the
think of these as like
overseeing
modules
executive suite,
that
so
they
it's
can
not just
pull from
technicians
to
here,
create
but
different
also,
kinds of play
executive
experiences.
wings. And also as a bit of fun, if the player does get access to these executive wings, then we're seeing another type of art style in here as well. So we've seen industrial, we've seen technical, now we'll be seeing, you know, more like the corporate foyer we saw up above, so meeting rooms, office spaces, that sort of thing. And what we're seeing here is maybe there's the data processing of the location. So as a quick idea, we thought these data racks are actually submerged for cooling in a base of water.
Which we do
today.
today.
It would also be cool if there's
we have
cause
lots
and
of
effects.
underwater
if the player
servers
solves a puzzle to go
Earth
from
today.
being below water to above water. So again, ways in which we can kind of spark ideas or conversations with design about interesting opportunities.
exposed underground, like
And then lastly,
trench
Zone 4.
run.
Now, it wouldn't
in
be
episode
be a
7 of
missed
Star
opportunity
Wars.
if we didn't go into some sort of organic locations as part of the underground facility. So this could be excavation zones or
like
areas where it's been
caves,
abandoned. This could lead into
mines.
cave networks. This was something we had quite a bit of fun with. So how do we actually take the player from being in this very well established...
Since I mentioned it, you guys can have that one for free too. Go ahead and give us some trench runs, you know, just some massive engineering trenches going across the surface of a planet. Let's build a Star Killer base, but in Star Citizen, where we can do it
industrial
better.
location to a cave. There needs to be some form of transition period. So we came up with ideas about how we'd see excavation equipment, or, you know, with the roads kind of peter out. And as part of the roads, you know, maybe we can do some pretty cool layouts for the player to drive through. Something that's a little bit more invested than just a straight line. Now, as part of that transition period between heavy industrial to exposed cave, the equipment needed to create further UGS spaces, you know, maybe there's a large boring machine still there. Again, maybe that comes into some form of gameplay opportunity for the player to traverse over, interact. That's kind of cool. Also, as part of that, another opportunity to introduce a new element to the space could be, as we're transitioning towards more natural spaces, we can not only introduce different types of geology, but maybe we're introducing some form of liquid. So depending on the location, maybe it's on a certain planet, there could be like underground rivers, underground lakes, maybe it's lava, maybe it's acidic. And also, if we're describing these locations as maybe some are more abandoned, we could start to showcase how nature slowly started to take over. This also would introduce some pretty cool opportunities. So also another process we do during concept development is I like to start taking some of these ideas we're developing and get them in the engine as soon as possible. And what this affords us is we can sit down with Todd and we can really evaluate how well an idea is working in terms of space, size, composition, gameplay opportunities right from the early visual development process. And what we're looking at here is very loose concept meshes brought into the engine, quickly lit, just for that exploration process.
I like that, because that does kind of help ground things a lot more than just the 2D stills.
What we're pushing for the new underground facilities. I'm quite excited about it.
Round
things. You are soon, and we look forward to showing you more in the future.
All right, thanks, bud. Again, really cool. I like the concepts. I mean, you could potentially spend entire play sessions underground and never see the sun, which, I mean, all for it. More gameplay variety is always good. Just keep in mind, this is still quite a ways off. So don't go looking at this and be upset when you don't see this in 4.0. I think this is still going to be quite a ways off. But very cool nonetheless. Like the kind of holographic warning labels. That's pretty cool. Which goes along with the new UI elements we've seen hints of. Very excited to see that too. The whole Minority Report. Very cool stuff. I'm excited for 4.0, guys. It's looking pretty cool. Let's see. Do we have time for more? Sure, why not? Why not? This is what Schlag was talking about in chat earlier. The need for speeds. And I just want to point out, you know, we come over here and hey, check this video out. This one was a lot of fun making. Love him or hate him, he's fun to make fun of. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, here we go. Speed limits in space. A lot of similar ideas there. So go and check out what I said there, and then give this a shot.
Hi, my name is Yogi Klatt.
Hi, Yogi.
I'm a gameplay programmer in the vehicle feature team. I'm here with Rich Towler,
Hi, Richard.
Colson,
David.
Jed Talbot,
Jed.
and Johnny Young. And today
Johnny.
we're gonna
Nice
talk
to meet
to
y'all.
you about the upcoming changes to the flight systems and the combat systems, which are done specifically for Squadron 42, but which will eventually find their way to the persistent universe. We want to define ship roles for the game because every role in itself and every ship can offer unique gameplay opportunities for individual players.
We want to provide a lot more variety to the gameplay in Star Citizen, a lot more opportunity for different careers, different responsibilities.
Guys, salvage is so close. That's going to be so
perspectives
cool.
And views on gameplay where people contribute different types of work and different types of jobs.
Star Citizen is supposed to be a big expansive game with giving the players lots of chances to have a variety of different experiences. It's not just about combat, it's not just about an economy, it's not just about piracy, it's about all of those things happening at the same time. So we need
That's a
ships
good
that can
shot
act
at
and
that
function in
explosion.
different ways to support all of those different goals.
In trying to figure out these roles and define what they are and make the gameplay for them, we started very heavily leaning toward combat, mostly because combat is a mechanic that is very widely applicable throughout the game, and the principles behind it apply
Space
to
is a dangerous
various
place.
other roles in the game.
We've been working away in the S42 branch, and this has really allowed us to isolate these ships. So we're kind of broken it down into archetypes, and it's really allowed us to kind of break down what these ships do. You know, and also it's to make sure that when we are defining these roles and balancing these roles, that we're putting the ships in the right place, because we don't want the ships to be like, you play this ship, it means you dominate this part of the game. That there's always got to be plus and minuses so the balance is right. So there's still some crossover between the ships. So just picking one type of ship just.
So Aero Gladius meta, that's going away, guys. In the future, you're going to have to be more selective about what ship you're taking into what kind of fight. So I'm very happy to hear that.
Isn't just a win.
We have already defined several ship roles, and they're usually known as light, medium, and heavy fighters. Light fighters for us are fighters which are very dominant in the area of 1 versus 1 PvP combat.
But they come with a downside, because obviously the light, which means the materials chosen on the ship, are probably not the strongest. So it's more about the attack. It's more about trying to outposition and get in there and attack and get out of the situation.
Heavy fighters
Agility
are
over
kind of the
firepower.
opposite. They're not supposed to be really good at 1 versus 1, but they excel at N versus N engagements. So when we have group battles.
That's my baby. That's Scorpius. Ain't she a beaut?
Medium fighters for us, internally we call multi-role fighters, because they have a lot of hard points, so they have a lot of loadout flexibility. So a player can tune them to the role whatever they want, but they will never reach the performance of dedicated ships.
A lot of the medium fighters sometimes come with a turret as well, so they've got that additional gameplay of the turret, which is aimed to kind of counter the lack of maneuverability that their ships have.
And then additionally to that, we have racing ships, which are basically just really fast at changing the velocity vectors. And
Very low
interceptors,
firepower.
which we basically just want to go very fast in the forward area, but never reaching really the performance envelope of dedicated dogfighters.
Interceptors are designed to kind of catch up to ships and disable them. So they come with kind of advanced kind of hardware on these ships.
Bombers, on the other hand, are well, they're just slobbing heavy ordnance at larger targets, so you use them to take out bigger ships. But they're not really good at, well, killing small fighters. And then from smaller ships coming to larger ships like Constellation and up, we want to change the gameplay to be less about positional combat, but more going into the naval style of combat, where it's important to show the correct shield and fire arcs and timing your shots over long distances.
So the purpose of ship roles is to really help players understand what ships should be used and when they should be used.
Can't
it's
use
really
the
about
same one
delivering
for
on
every
those
mission.
kind of gameplay promises that we've been talking about, over the past, kind of several years.
If every ship is the same, it's not fun. But if we have dedicated ships with dedicated pros and cons, then we can create very exciting combat environments. And the biggest challenge we see in order to get that gameplay we want is the current speed that we have in combat.
It's a subject we've talked about many, many times in the past. And it's something we've tried many things with. We've tried limiting things at speed. We've tried adjusting handling at speed. We've tried so many things to kind of manage the negative impact of speed on combat.
When ships are going fast in combat, they usually just end up very far apart, which is not very interesting. And it just devolves into jousting very quickly, which is also not very interesting.
The second you create a longer distance between you and the target, your angular requirements to maneuver to that target are just extremely small. And this is a very obvious math reason why high-speed combat is kind of the opposite of what we want to achieve, meaning meaningful and effective positional maneuvering.
We want the combat
It's a lot
to
more
be
fun
closer
when you have to use
and
the
to be more
sticks.
turn-oriented, so rotations should matter more than just flat speed.
Having very high speed
Is that the new
that are pretty much
just flat.
That's still the same model from the game, huh?
having
I was
very
hoping that
high
was the new
speeds that are
Hornet
pretty much
model,
the same
but doesn't
between
look
all
like
ship
it.
classes negates a lot of the opportunity for smaller ships to flex different types of gameplay.
Another big issue with the speeds in combat is it's very hard to keep players engaged in the combat because players can move so far so quickly in such a short space of time. It's quite hard to keep a track on your opponent.
So you might think, oh, why don't we just make the ship slower and call it a day? Well, we can't do that.
The main reason we can't just make everything slower is the size of the Star Citizen world. We've got huge planets where we need to go from the planet's surface up into space. We need to transverse between different systems. So essentially we can't have just low speeds all of the time.
There's a massive universe out there to explore, there's planets to explore, and the feelings we want to capture with the speed, we still want an element of danger that you can still go too fast in lots of situations.
We have tried an awful lot over the past few years with what are called soft speed caps, where there is no speed cap on ships, but we encourage gameplay to occur at a lower speed. But it doesn't really work because the advantages of flying fast in terms of defense is just better.
So since the last year, the focus of vehicle...
So one thing they need to keep in mind, though, is their AI jousts a lot. So I hope that at the same time they're working on it to make it so that when you're going up against that M50 interceptor, it's not just going to keep buzzing the tower every time. So just pointing that out.
The feature team shifted very heavily towards Squadron 42 and nailing down the flight and space combat experience for it. And I'm very proud to say that we finally found a really good working solution that we're going to show today.
Master modes.
So the main idea
I'm
is
excited
to
about
simply
this.
not have combat and long-range travel at the same time. So we're splitting these gameplay experiences. This will be done by a thing which is called master modes. A master mode is a thing that is globally applied to your ship. And we have two of them. We have SCM, which is now relabeled as standard control mode, and QCM or QM for quantum mode.
The idea is that between these two modes, we can constrain the speeds in combat and also get all of the maneuvering, like high speed maneuvering and traversal mechanics that we had before, but in these distinct modes that are integrated with lore and integrated with the ship functions, such that there's costs and payoffs for being in each of the two modes.
So let's start with standard control mode and what this means. So this is the mode that we intend to be the functional mode of the ship, whether it's combat or mining or any of these kind of core kind of things the ship does. We want the player to do these things in this mode. And what this does is it reduces the speed of the ship, but it also enables the shield to be turned on. And obviously the intent behind this is where you do your combat. It's where the guns are on, the missiles can be armed and fired, and all the kind of operational things a ship does operates within this mode.
The speeds that you can reach in SCM are somewhat limited somewhere between 200 and 300 meters per second, tuning pending. But this is basically the hard cap, which you cannot not really exceed. You can slightly exceed this by using boost, but you cannot maintain any velocity beyond that SEM limit for a longer period of time.
So we're thinking of this as some kind of energy management system. So you can go a little bit faster with a little bit more accelerations when you need to, but you know that it is a limited resource and you should use it carefully.
Specifically, the boost space is interesting for space combat because that boost space is not spheric as it was before. You can boost the fastest if you're going forward on a straight line, and you have a lot of debuffs when you're trying to boost backwards. That alone gets us a lot of interesting maneuvering space and variation.
So, Avenger 1 did a video talking about this. No, I'm not trying to search Avenger 1. I'm trying to pull up Paint, actually. Sketchbook. Sketchbook is better. And let me... let's see. Let me switch to my second screen here. So you can see OBS. Let me whip the pen out. So let's bring up a new layer. And we've got our ship, right? So it's got little wings. And what are they saying right now? Well, they're saying that right now it's spheric, right? Let's put that in the right spot. There we go. So when you're moving around, you are moving around in this kind of bubble that makes it so that all of your boost speeds are proportional to the direction that you're pushing, right? What are they saying that's different? It's no longer spheric, right? So Avenger kind of alluded to it being something like this, where it still could be circular, but now maybe your ship is at the back of the bubble. I think they're saying something a little differently. I think what they're saying is it's now... Oh, I did not get that lined up very well. I think what they're saying is it could now be oblong like this, okay? The difference here is side to side, you could be heavily penalized. You know, you're not going to be able to strafe very well. Going forward, you might have a huge advantage in the boost speeds that you can reach in those directions, but then once you change direction, it's no longer good anymore. So let me throw this on the main screen. So old method in the black circle, new method is what I think they're saying in the blue oval. You can now boost in the forward direction much better than you can to the sides or even going backwards. No, we don't want to say that. It's not important.
In the day-to-day dogfight maneuvering, so to speak.
Importantly, you don't have your quantum drive available in this mode. The idea is that quantum is restrained to the quantum traversal mode.
The second mode is quantum control mode, or QCM or QM. What this mode does is it unlocks your maximum velocity that your ship can reach. So when you were limited before to 200 to 300 meters per second, now you can go to 1200, 1400 meters per second, whatever your ship allows you.
During the development of the quantum mode, we realized we needed something that was a little bit more kind of about traveling large distances, but not the distances that you need to, speed up your quantum drive and travel across the universe. So we've created this feature called Quantum Boost, which is available in the quantum mode.
Okay, real quick. No shields. You're going to have to be really careful in those asteroid fields.
And you can access it at any point. So at any point you want to kind of boost towards your location that you're kind of looking at, but it's just too far away. And this boost is available for a limited amount of time, and it's purely on a straight line.
Just to give you like a ballpark, Quantum boost will allow you to go to a target fast if it's within, let's say, 50,000 kilometers, whereas you will use quantum travel to do very long range jumps between planets. So quantum mode allows you to go very, very fast with up to like 1200, 1400 meters per second when you want to zip really fast over a planet. It also allows you to do quantum boost to quickly go between points of interest, which are rather close to you. And it allows you to do quantum boost second when you want to zip really fast over.
Because 1400 meters per second, maybe that's a misspeak, but the speeds that they're showing with the quantum boost seem a lot faster than that.
A planet. It also allows you to do quantum boost to quickly go between points of interest, which are rather close to you, and it allows you to travel long distances between planets and large-scale stellar.
So it's not going to totally suck every time you have to go to Crusader now.
Objects, but it comes at a cost. Your capacitor systems are non-functional because they interfere with the quantum bubble that is allowing you to go fast. You won't have shields. Your shields will collapse right away when you swap into quantum mode. Your weapons will stop working because anything that's firing outwards of your ship will disintegrate the quantum bubble. Your countermeasures won't work. And you will also not be able to use thruster boost. So basically all your capacitor and combat related systems are turned off instantly.
When you switch between modes, there'll be a little period of time where everything has to spool up and change. So you will lose your shields during this, you won't have your weapons during this, but you also won't be going fast. So there's a risk-reward element when you need to switch modes.
So it's going to be a very kind of conscious choice of what
a lot more dangerous all of a sudden
at any particular point. So if you feel under threat of someone that's close by, you're not quite sure what their intention is, maybe switch to standard control mode and be safe. Or you can switch into quantum mode and escape. And this is going to kind of bring in an element of danger and an element of risk.
Because going into the two different modes is like a systemic thing within the ship's items, we actually have the opportunity now to define ship roles that can block people from escaping, either using devices that suppress the quantum bubble or devices that can effectively interfere with your ability to transfer between the modes. For example, specific ships like interceptors can be tuned such that they have a higher standard control mode speed, so they're able to catch up with people. Or, for example, make the swap between the modes faster and more efficiently so that they could catch up with you, go into standard control mode and attack you more effectively as per the properties of their ship versus another ship, which might not be as good.
So it adds another way that they can balance.
It's something that's fundamentally changed the gameplay experience for us. And this is working now, and we're playing it every day in the studio, we're refining it, we're tweaking bits here and there. But we're at that stage now where we're tweaking and balancing. And we've got the core features, it's there in the game playable. And the difference it's made on the game for us is it's basically night and day.
Because the speeds have been limited,
they're playing an entirely different game
mode, suddenly
we're used to.
Fights are a lot closer. The accelerations of ships similarly have been retuned a little bit, and their afterburner strength has been retuned a little bit to make it so that you can orbit around ships and have a lot more interesting maneuvering. And because the ranges are closer, maneuvers that would be performed by your ship have a much more significant impact because you're closer. So if I thrust up or down, you'll immediately see the difference. So similarly, things like capital ships effectively get a buff to their offensive capabilities with this change, because suddenly you can't orbit a capital ship at high range and high speeds. You have to get a lot closer, which will make the turrets much more effective at shooting you. Turrets become more important, and working as a group to attack capital ships is more important than it has been before.
So it might not... The days of taking on a hammerhead.
This is a really exciting change
because
it allows us to keep the combat speeds relatively low, where we know that the gameplay is better for that, while also keeping the point-to-point travel speeds as high as they should be for PU.
Playing with master modes in Squadron 42 has been a lot of fun, simply because it's changed the entire combat experience. Before, you'd find that you were fighting at a huge distance. Now you find that you're in really tight, close combat with the other players. I think the biggest part of this is going to be when we have the larger ships interacting with the smaller ships. Once we can have battles with big capital ships and smaller ships, we'll have brought something to the Star Citizen world that I don't think has been has come out before, and I think it'll make a massive improvement to the game.
Having made these changes to implement master modes and rebalancing all of the ship speeds, we'll finally be able to define ship roles in the way that we've always wanted and to bring a lot more variety to the gameplay that we haven't had before.
So it's been a really long journey here, obviously, because you've been a part of this journey. You know, and we've tried many, many different things over the time to try and really create the experience we want. But you know, the reality is, from us, it came down to what it always is in Citizen, which is creating choice for the players. It's about giving players the option, and their choices have consequences. You know, so with master modes, it really helps define the player choice in the game. So they're choosing to do combat, they're choosing to travel from A to B in quantum, they're choosing to QT boost somewhere. Just giving players that freedom within the universe we have is just, like, it's a really magical thing. And we try many times to control that as, you know, as designers, to try and get a specific experience at some point. But we always end up coming back to the fact, let's just give the players the choice and let them make the key decisions, and we'll design the balance around that.
We finally have it. So we're now nailing down the space combat experience for Star Citizen, specifically for Squadron 42. We know from internal playtest that the master mode stuff works. We know that it works with our flight retunings, and it's very exciting. It will yet take a while to ship this to the PU because the amount of ships you fly in Squadron 42 is rather limited, whereas in Star Citizen we have about, I don't know, more than 100 ship records at the moment. But the whole hard problem of designing this thing in the first place is over. We just need to get the numbers in now.
And all the footage you've seen today is from Squadron. It's all currently playable in the game. That, you know, internally, that, you know, we're playing this every day. We're still making some tweaks, but everything is there right now. It's all about the foundational kind of tweaks that we're making.
It seems there is some visual improvements.
So thanks a lot for listening
being
to us
shown
today.
in
We're very,
this
very excited to
that
get
we
the
don't
changes
have
to you as
access
soon as
to.
possible. And yeah, we'll hope to see you fighting in the exciting
right now.
Like this Gladius looks
It's all about
different somehow. Look at those surfaces. They're like more, they're sharper.
Kind of tweaks that we're making.
Am I
And
just
we
crazy?
can't wait to get it in your hands.
So thanks
be.
a lot for listening to us today. We're very, very excited to get the changes to you as soon as possible. And yeah, we'll hope to see you fighting in the verse.
So I do still think that we need something to account for the much larger distances that you'll need to jump, you know, from to get across the solar system. You know, that's not a jump point size thing. That's still quantum jumps. I'd like to see them introduce a way to make it so that it's not just watching paint streak across the screen for, you know, countless minutes lost, really. That's a cool armor set. I don't know that I've seen that one in game yet. Saw a little bit about this one on Noobifier's channel, so I'm really excited to see Loreville 2.0 as well.
My name's Ian Leyland, and I'm the art director for Star Citizen. And today
Hello,
we're
Ian.
going to talk about an internal initiative called Loreville.
I think he was on one of the previous videos
Now,
we were
with
watching, and I
Loreville,
didn't say hi.
Specifically, the
Hi,
Loreville
Ian.
Cityscape. It was probably the first major landing zone we'd have ever had to do. It was the first time we put a landing zone on a planet, and we had the player fly there with minimal restrictions, although it did have that really big no-fly zone. But when we did
Look at all those new
subsequent
buildings.
landing zones, we built up a bit more of a
That's
knowledge base and
cool.
experience base about how we can effectively introduce cityscapes. So Area 18, New Babbage, Orison, we all developed more techniques, and we always wanted to go back internally and put that knowledge back into Loreville. To start us off, I'll throw it over to Eric, our principal concept artist, and he can show you some more.
Hi, my name is Eric Gagnon. I'm a
Hi, Eric.
principal concept artist for Star Citizen and Turbulent in Montreal, and I'm here to talking about the Loreville 2.0.
Oh my gosh, am I still on the... What a bonehead.
When I started to work on the concept, Initially,
No,
what I
no,
did
we're
is
good.
to
Sorry,
create,
I was looking at the
variety
live stream and it
of,
was lagging
sketches,
behind quite a
black
bit,
and white
and so I thought that we were
sketches
still
of different approach
looking
of
at
that
my
city.
paint screen.
We
But
create
no, we're on the right
a
screen.
side
We're
panel
good.
of a silhouette of the building. Mainly, the reason we need to work on that is for mainly gameplay issues, because we would like to make a gameplay in the interior buildings, and we need to create a bigger city to let the player have a fun experience to flying through that. Yeah, so after the sketching process and get
Again,
some
I mentioned it
approval,
before,
I
a
need
lot of
to know
concept
very
art just
well,
never ends up on the screen.
the footprint of
I
that
really
city
like
to build a
seeing
city
concept art. It
from a
always
human
gets my
scale,
imagination going.
We have nothing in that city, they build in a gray zone. So everything is built from that unit, and it's built from the unit of the CBD. So this is mainly the two main unit I used to build a city. So we have a kind of a proportion in terms of lengths and distances to respect. So this is why I used the 3D basis to working on that. So I need to make sure
I'm
that
getting
the
the
ratio
vibe
of
of the
everything
industrial
fits well
center
to
or the
approach closely as possible.
industrial
So
zone
mainly
of
the goal
Coruscant. That
is
scene.
not to dig right away on the details, but it's to stay on the big picture and to see if the skyline makes sense. So this is a good challenge to play with that.
So in all these shots, we're seeing that the central Hurston monolithic tower is still very prominent, right? It sticks out. It's imposing like the Senate chambers or the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. You can see it no matter where you are, right? It's always this looming presence. But you do have a lot more skyline variety, which they're adding in Lorville 2.0, which is really good to see. It adds a lot more visual interest to look at, but you still have this sense of the Hurston family is dominating the landscape. They're overbearing on the city population, which is a really cool
And
storytelling thing that they have
I
going
did,
on there.
A nice job on that, because at the end, what the feeling we have, it's like a real city. So I use my my 2D background in concept artist to make the best as possible.
You can see some evidence of photo bashing here. It looks really cool.
With all the techniques inside of it, 3D, paint over, sketching, painting, and at the end, I was needed to create a very speechless concept to sell the mandate to the people involved in that, and they make sure they believe on.
Photo bashing, if you don't know, it's a technique where you take textures from photos in real life and you just kind of mash them into Photoshop to kind of quickly speed through the concept process. But like if you look here, this is probably a texture probably clipped from maybe even like New York, right? Of just actual lights on a building. They're just thrown on here to give this building the light textures that it needs. You can see that it doesn't quite match up with how this building should probably look, but as a concept piece, it just gives you the impression of a busy, glittery skyline that you want to see in a city. You can see over here, it doesn't quite match up with the contours of the building, but it's not something that you're supposed to like look at super carefully and scrutinize that way. You're just supposed to kind of take in the feel, and I think it works really well here. But I just kind of like looking at those kinds of techniques and seeing how they're used. Here's another good example. Maybe he's trying to give the impression of a tunnel here, but you can see these lights kind of go totally off in a different direction. You still have some paint or brush markers that are going along the slanting sides here. Not to say that it's bad, okay? It's not supposed to be like a heavy critique. It's just kind of talking about the process of how these are made. That's just kind of interesting to me.
That project, and they could say Well, okay, now we are Lorville 2.0 and we're ready to moving on that.
Thanks, Eric. There's some beautiful image there, and we had a lot of fun internally developing that cityscape. Now, we're not just in concept development. We've actually just passed our white box milestone internally, so we're going to jump over to Max, and he's going to show you where we're at.
Bonjour, mon nom est Maxime Guindon. Je
Max.
suis chef environnement artiste sur le projet Star Citizen. Mon mandat en ce moment est Lorville 2.0. Premièrement, je voudrais dire bonjour à la communauté francophone de Star Citizen, à toute la communauté
I
en
don't
fait.
speak French, but
Ce que vous faites, ce que vous partagez m'inspire énormément dans mon travail.
if you start spitting Spanish, I can join in there.
From the concepts done, it was time to start it in engine, and we've had to evaluate what was possible to do and to extend or to make it much bigger than the initial Lorville city, up to something that matches the ambition. For instance, we are keeping the L19 area, we are keeping the CBD, we're keeping the spaceport, and we're building upon this and just extending the city. We've done several tests with
Which I think that's the right move. Lorville has such a
system,
distinctive
the rails,
look that's already established.
and, we try
I think
to
you'd
extend
anger
it out
a
bit.
lot of people
We're keeping the
if you
same
got rid of
number
that.
of gates, but we're moving them out. And so throughout these tests, we've built the city as just placeholder, white box, very primitive, to have this layout, this fast iteration of the whole city done, and then that we could see it and get feedback on it. So it will feel more like a believable city. We hope it to be fun to fly around and like to actually do some races in it. We're
Here we go.
building,
Here's some
arches,
Tirada style hard flying.
bridges and like underpasses, and it makes it interesting to be able to fly around. We see the community of players. They're doing like emergent gameplay of races, and that inspires us. And then the way that we're building the city, we are starting now.
It's got to be so cool to, as a developer,
Montreal's
just
tools
see
teams now
players
that are
taking
working on, like,
something you've built and just
tools.
running with it.
And
you can tell that it's fun for them because
chatting with
they're
them,
looking
see
for
what
ways
we
to add
could,
those kinds of things
could
back
use
in and
from
build the
library of
game
tools.
from the ground
There
up
will
that
be
way.
several areas of like a higher level of detail, especially around landing pads on rooftops and lookout areas. And these are the places where the players will be able to land. These will eventually connect to the interior spaces that will be built later. And in that sense, Lorville will be ready for those interiors. We started as a team of 2 artists working on Lorville, and now we're 5. And we could even be like more soon. Each artist has slightly different skill sets, and we complete each other. They bring ideas. I let them bring ideas to the table on how to advance what we're doing, make it kick-ass. So that's really important. So I hope you'll like what you see, and we can't wait to show you more.
Can't wait
I'm
to
happy
see more.
about the opportunity of working on this mandate, because it's gonna make such a huge difference.
Thanks, Max. That's looking great. And hopefully you guys can kind of see, even in a white boxing format, we're seeing really good scale reads and understanding about how we can make the cityscape of Lorville probably one of our best yet. And we'll be showing more soon. Thanks for letting us showcase that for you today. Enjoy the rest of the show.
So now the challenge there is, you know, you have to have each city has to have its own visual language. You know, New York can't look like London. So it's cool to see how they've managed to do that in Star Citizen. You can go to Area 18, you can go to Lorville, and you get totally different vibes from each location, which is critical to the kind of storytelling that they do with these visuals. And just really impressive overall. I like it. Can't wait to see more. Let's, how much more content do we have left? Oof. I think we're probably going to have to come back for another stream for the rest of this. So I think we're going to leave it off here and call it good for tonight. But hey, thanks for hanging out. I had fun going through this footage with you guys, and I hope to see you in the verse. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. If you want to get 5% off of your kit from Monster Tech USA, use my code. It's down in the description, but it's oddjob, all lowercase, and that'll get you 5% off your order. I've got some very exciting projects coming out with Monster Tech in the next month or two, and I can't wait to show you those. Until next time, this is Oddjob Entertainment, signing off.